My name is James Wolffsohn and I'm a professor and the Dean of Optometry at Aston University in Birmingham in the UK. I'm also the Chief Scientific Officer of the International Myopia Institute. That's a global organisation, it's a not-for-profit supported by industry to make sure that we can disseminate the very rapid growing research base in myopia and myopia control to practitioners. So they then have the latest information so they can then give the best service to their patients. The IMI was founded in 2015 on the back of a meeting between the World Health Organization and the Brian Holden Vision Institute, where for the first time they recognised myopia as a serious health concern. Now we're really fortunate in myopia. There is lots and lots of research going and lots of interaction between the scientists, between industry to produce the products, practitioners then getting hold of those and mapping those to their patients, and of course the patient feedback that goes right back to the beginning in terms of what science we need to do. From 2015, the IMI has been producing these white papers, so sets of reports that are freely available to bring people up to date on that knowledge. We're just publishing our fourth set of reports, which is why we're here at the British Contact Lens Association today to announce what we're doing, some of the key findings for practitioners, but also to make them aware that these reports exist. They're a really useful resource when you're talking with a patient and they ask you that challenging question. You can go and see, well, is there evidence for that at the moment? What's the direction of travel in terms of our understanding? Or maybe actually we don't know about that yet, and that's something that future research needs to fill in. So in terms of the IMI reports for 2025, there are lots of them covering lots of topics, because again these come from feedback that we get where people go, oh, tell us about this particular area. Now things that are in each set of reports are the surveys, so we look at what's actually happening in the world today. We have a little over 3,000 practitioners from around the world that contribute to that, so we can see how over the years single vision spectacles, for example, for young progressing myopes has decreased in terms of the number prescribing. Myopia control spectacles, when they came onto the market not that long ago, massive increase in their uptake. So this is really useful to benchmark where we are and also to see new technologies and how they're being adopted. So we do these myopia control and management surveys every couple of years. And what we've seen over the years is there has been a wider uptake of myopia control treatments, contact lenses initially and orthokeratology. Then when spectacles came, a big uprise in that. There is a little bit of a plateauing, interestingly, in the last couple of surveys to suggest there's still more work to do. And about a third of patients are still put in a single vision treatment. Now, of course, that's not necessarily just about people not adopting these strategies. There are cost issues and other burdens that these surveys also identify. But it is really important as we move forward to really think about that individual child, what this is going to mean. And sometimes I think as practitioners, we make those decisions for patients. Oh, they're not going to be able to afford this, so I won't offer it to them. And I think it's just really important that parents have that full gamut. It may not be right for them at this current time, but they need to know about it. We also have the digest, so this brings up to date, because obviously the things that we did in 2015 have now moved on, so that allows us to map across all of the topics that we do, bringing people up to date. And then in terms of other papers, some of the ones that we talked about today, one on instrumentation. Again, this is really interesting because in myopia control, it is really useful to measure the axial length of the eye. We can use the choroid, so the layer behind the retina, that changes in thickness as sort of a preventative method for myopia control. And so actually with that, we can predict quite often what's going to happen 2 years down the line, and potentially in the future even predict for an individual child which type of treatment might work better for them. So that's a really interesting paper, and also just challenging people in terms of getting hold of this technology and what technology they need at different stages. So obviously if you're monitoring health, then that's very different to measuring biometry, because that's going to help to decide which treatment that you're going to use. There's a very nice paper on light therapies. We know light is important. We've known for many years, hundreds of years, people have commented that children who spend more time outdoors have less refractive error. but actually understanding that right from the animal models through to the implications of clinical practice are really important. While interventions was one of our first papers, we've updated that in this set of reports. So again, really important to look at those interventions. How effective are they? How should we report that effectiveness? Is that about diopters and millimeters, or is that about percentages and the relative advantages and disadvantages of that? So that's just a flavour of some of the reports. There are others in there as well, one on public health. We're updating the epidemiology, so understanding how many people are myopic now and what the predictions are for the future. So some really nice things for practitioners to get hold of and to understand better, and to be able to answer the questions of their patients easier. So in terms of the reports, they may look a little bit long. Obviously, there are individual ones you can pick off. What the IMI does is it translates those, but puts them also into summaries. So that can give you that quick, high level if you don't have time to read the full paper. We also developed an infographic. We're now updating that. So again, I find that really useful with parents to go through. So it takes them through the why, the what, the risk factors, because often they're worried about things and it's like, well, actually, we don't really have any evidence that that's driving your child's myopia. But then the range of treatments, and opens up that discussion of what's right for your child at the particular time. So I think those are really good ways for people to initially engage. So in terms of next areas that we need to understand more, we do need to understand more about environmental factors, particularly light. What's the critical period for the child? Is rapid dosing, a good thing, a bad thing? So I think that's an area, certainly in terms of giving good advice to parents, but thinking about strategies. People are developing outdoor classrooms and painting classrooms with outdoor scenes with less contrast, which is more realistic to the outside world, and that is showing benefits. So again, I think that there's more that we can do in that sort of more public health, as well as in terms of the specific devices. There's a fantastic new paper, 2024 paper, showing that while we've been putting these positive lenslets, so changing the blur in the periphery, moving the image in front of the retina to stop the signal to growth, actually if you use negative lenslets, so it's putting it behind the retina, exactly the same thing happens. So the eye stops growing or slows its growth. So actually maybe we're not understanding these technologies as well, and that gives options for newer technologies. So certainly understanding the role of contrast in the development of myopia and in the stopping of myopia, I think is a really important area going ahead. Communication. Again, none of this happens without communication. We can have the best technology in the world. While there might not be much science on myopia communication, there's lots of science in other areas where, communication, public health campaigns. So again, what can we understand from that as an eye care profession that we can then put in place to really improve things for our parents? So there's lots of areas, lots of ideas of where we need to go next. So yes, there's no stopping at the moment. So the reports, some of them literally will be published any day, others later in this year, and then once they're all published, they'll be put together in a proper issue of the journal Investigative Ophthalmology and Visual Science. They're all open access, you don't need to pay a fee or anything like that to download them. So again, I would encourage people to make them accessible, even if they want to stick them on their desktop, because I find these reports really useful when someone asks me something and I'm not quite sure. You can dip back in very quickly to that section and go, oh, well, this is what we know today. Anyone can become a member of the IMI. It's free to join. Literally, you go onto the website and put a little bit about you. But again, that's a really good way of you being alerted about changes when they come, when the papers are published, and anyone on that website can get a hold of those summaries, which are really useful.